So I was working out at a gym, and I decided that, I can offer something. Maybe this is something I can do as like a small business. And so I approached the owner, the head trainer.
Welcome to NDTR Spotlight, the corner of the internet where NDTR shine. I'm your host, Marie Lorraine. We are so excited because this is the first ever National Nutrition Month with an NDTR day. And in that celebration, we have Christopher Mills with us. He has a master's in public health. He is an NDTR and he has a CSCS certification. He is currently a lecturer at the University of Arizona. And in 2021, he was recognized Nutrition and Dietetics Technician of the Year. Not only is he a part of the Academy, but he also is receiving awards and doing great things, and is our second NDTR lecturer to ever be on this podcast. So very, very excited. Chris, so happy to have you. How are you today?
I'm great. I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So tell us, what was your initial reaction when you found out that there was going to be a day for NDTRs?
Well, my initial reaction was that I had no idea that there would be a day. So that was pretty exciting. That was really cool. And I feel very honored that I get to be here for that.
Yeah, and I'm so excited to be able to sit down and talk to you. And I received when I found out that you were going to be on the podcast, I was so excited to see an NDTR of your level coming and just sharing your experience and your experience with the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. So tell us, when did you first join the Academy?
Well, first time was a number of years ago, without aging myself too badly. When I was an undergrad at Michigan State University. In 2003, I joined. Our faculty was really encouraging all of our students to be active student members. And so that's the first time I joined, and I was with the Academy for a number of years. But unfortunately, felt a little out of place, I guess, and underrepresented within the Academy as an NDTR, and it took some time away. But in the last few years, really feel re-energized and rejoined.
That is so interesting, your perspective, being a member of the Academy as an NDTR and not feeling very well represented, and now represented. And now the Academy is switching, and there's a lot more, or there's more focus on NDTRs, which is so encouraging. And you said you saw this change. So in the last 2 years, so was that the push, or what was the push for you to rejoin the Academy?
Well, really the big push, I would have to say, yes, seeing that the representation increase, more positions were being filled by NDTRs, which was exciting. But then also the Academy offers so much in terms of networking and resources. That was a big push for me, to have access to all that material and different people. You can connect with people from all over who you might not normally interact with, and that's really exciting.
Yes, that networking is huge, and it really can help with your career. So becoming a member again, was that also helping you with your career? Was something in your career kind of missing that the Academy came in and was that golden ticket?
Yes. I would say every step of my career, as a member, one thing that really stands out to me, with the networking, at least, is I've been able to really connect with nutrition professionals that have been very mentoring and really pushed me in very positive directions. Back in 2010, 2011, I think the option for students who have graduated with a bachelor's and did a DPD, first came available. They could sit for the NDTR exam, and my mentor at the time was really pushing, and then she was like, "Do this. You can't go wrong." And let's just focus on that. And so that was a huge benefit because I never considered that. It wasn't even something that was on my radar. So having that mentor and having those connections was huge. Moving into education, more mentors there. When I was working as an NDTR in a skilled nursing facility, the dietitian I worked under was amazing, and she taught me so much. It was fantastic. So I mean, you can't go wrong. Really amazing people.
That's incredible, the connections. And you kind of gave us some glimpses into your career and how the mentorship and the connections, the network was really beneficial. So give us a brief summary. Can you tell us what you've done as an NDTR and how you got to this role as a lecturer?
Okay. Without see, I have a tendency to talk a lot, so I'm going to try to really kind of scale it back. Um, so the original plan was to graduate with my bachelor's in dietetics, to move into an internship, and then become an RD.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the internships were really happening, and that was for a number of years after graduating, and it was very discouraging. Um, Again, having a mentor was a huge benefit. Keep trying, keep trying. The option of the NDTR came available. Go for it. So I started working as an NDTR in a skilled nursing facility. I did that for 6 years. The last 2 years of that, I started working in sports nutrition on the side, and I was working for different clubs within Tucson. Combat athletes was my main focus, and they're great. If you ever want to work in sports nutrition, combat athletes and hockey players are the best athletes, because they'll do anything. They'll
Oh.
if it makes them better. I don't know why, but they just have that, like, just, I'm gonna do it. So they're awesome. They're fantastic athletes to work with. And then I really, the part of the NTDR that I loved the most was the more face to face with the patients. And so I thought, I want to do more of that education. And so I was starting to look into uh, other realms where I could be, still work in nutrition and education. And I went to school, and I became a secondary, earned a secondary education certificate, and became a middle school science teacher. And what was great with that
Okay.
is I was really allowed to bring my nutrition background into it,
Mm.
especially when we would get on areas of health and biology. I could really just have some fun with the students. And then things progressed. I was started as an adjunct at the University of Arizona. I guess I was doing things well, because they asked me to come on full time, and it's been 3 years now. And oh, and I guess I should mention that I'm now a commissioner with the Commission on Dietetic Registration. I'm as the NDTR representative. So that's a new thing that started. That's hugely exciting, because I feel like I now have a greater opportunity to really kind of push the NDTR within the academy, well, and with the CDR and certifications and things like that.
Yeah. So a lot of NDTRs, unfortunately, there's 4,200 across the country, and less than half of them are members of the academy. So we don't know what that is. What is the role that you just took on? Can you describe what it is, what that process was of getting it, and what your job is as?
Yeah, so I'm the NDTR representative within the Commission of Dietetic Registration. So another thing, like we mentioned earlier, how the academy is really bringing in NDTRs into leadership roles, and this is a great example of that. With the CDR, I have like these amazing people that I'm working with, and what's really exciting is that uh, they might talk about an issue with certifications, education, dietetic practice, and they're like, Chris, what's the NDTR's perspective? What are they thinking? How do they feel about this? So you're really being brought in to the decision making, which is really exciting. I don't think that gets highlighted enough, and I don't know if that's something that's really recent. For me, really seeing the stuff with the NDTR within the academy and the CDR, is really over the last few years, and it might have been going on for longer, but it's not really something that people are aware of. I think that's really exciting, because it can be very alienating when you feel that everything is geared towards the registered dietitian, and yeah, you're a nutrition professional, but you're kind of here, and we'll think about you later, which isn't the case at all. But it's really easy to kind of think that and get that impression. So that's definitely something I want to say to people that are no longer members, or have not been a member of the academy, that are NDTRs. There's a lot happening that you can benefit from, and I think the academy is really stepping up and kind of bringing us more to the forefront, which is fantastic.
That is so exciting, because it definitely feels that way. And it's no fault to dietitians. They're just not thinking NDTR, but we need to have that voice, and we need to be like, well, NDTRs too. So it's not, I think they've tried. They're like, oh, dietitian. Oh, but we can't forget about NDTRs. And it is an afterthought in many regards, but now it doesn't sound like it's going to be an afterthought with people like
Yes.
you, a part of the academy, saying, well, let's add this perspective in.
Yes, yes, and I really feel that I'm contributing, and that my opinion matters, and I think that's really important. So you're an NDTR. The work you're doing is great work, and you do make a difference, and you do matter. And if you have issues or suggestions, throw them out there to the academy, to the CDR. They're gonna listen, because I've been hearing that stuff. So you're not just sending out an email or making a phone call and nothing's happening with it. Stuff is happening.
So how does that work? Do they just
Yes.
send the email to the academy and then you kind of find it and sort through
I,
them?
I I think, I'm not really sure. Sometimes, well, when we have our meetings with the CDR, there'll be different things on the agenda, and oftentimes it might be something that was brought up. A lot of stuff came up with Fancy this year that we discussed. So that is another great opportunity. If you're a member and you go to Fancy, yeah, you get to meet amazing people. You get to sit in on some really cool presentations. Well, and then also you get to like talk to the people that are making decisions about what it is that you can and cannot do. And so that's a great time to go and, make your opinion known. Yeah.
It's so encouraging to hear that like our voices are being heard, and what you're putting out into the academy sounds so helpful. How did you fall into that role? Did you apply to it? Was it mentorship that got you there? What made you find that role?
I applied for it. I happened to be reading the newsletter from the academy, and a
Oh,
position for the NDTR representative within the Commission Dietetic Registration. There was an ad for it. And so I'm like, wow, this is really exciting. So I talked to some colleagues, and somebody was nice enough to nominate me, I guess. I probably pushed that by
you're
saying,
like,
oh,
let
this
me,
is really cool. Yeah. So, but I'm really thankful for that.
yes.
And then it was a national voting, like they do with the other positions within the academy and the CDR, different committees and things. So there was an election, and then I was fortunate enough that people voted for me, and I was placed in this position. Uh, lots of learning happening, but I'm getting to see everything from a very different point of view, which I find is really really beneficial, really exciting, because uh, when you're doing the nutrition work and you're working with the patients and you're doing the paperwork and you're dealing with all that, it's really easy to get this kind of tunnel vision, and this is just where I'm at. And then if I'm looking, oh, I want to find stuff through the academy or online about, okay, NDTR stuff. Let's see. Oh, I keep seeing a million things about RDs, and oh, here's one thing about an NDTR. It You can't help but feel a little disconnected.
Mhm.
Uh, but seeing what's happening in the background is really encouraging. And I mean, I guess encouragement is probably like the big thing I can stress to NDTRs, is that there's a lot of changes that the academy is doing, and I'm really glad that they're doing it. Of course, it wanted to happen a while ago, but it's great that's happening now.
Yeah, and I think we're beginning to see that bud of it really showing up with National Nutrition Month this year and having NDTR Day. But it is super encouraging, because a big question is, with the continuing of the celebration, it's like, well, I hope a lot of NDTRs are saying, I hope this isn't it. I hope there's more. But
Yeah.
you are giving the insight that there is more coming, because you're behind the scenes and you see more coming.
Yes, yes. I can't say that there's anything in the works, but what I can say is that there's definitely a conversation. And I think that's really promising. I know, I mean, from a personal standpoint myself, is I see all these great, advanced practice and other specialty certifications offered to the RD. I mean, I think that would be fantastic if NDTRs had the option of maybe advanced practice certification, or in different areas. But that's just me. That's not coming from the commission or anything. But that's
Yeah.
something that I would like to throw out there, and see if something comes of it, because I would definitely be interested in that. Uh, yeah.
And the conversation, that's where it starts. And so if we're putting out our voices and we're saying what we want and we're showing up and we're being involved in the academy, clearly things will happen, and those conversations will turn into actions, just like
Yes.
having a day for NDTRs that started off as a conversation and it finally became an action. And now we're here.
Yes.
So very
Yes. Well,
exciting.
well said. Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. So you're obviously giving a lot to the Academy, a lot of time, a lot of effort, which really I really appreciate as how you are promoting the NDTR credential. And you said you got a lot of the networking and and networking was a big resource you got from the Academy. Anything else that really stands out that's like just a resource that you rely on as a member?
The practice manuals that you have access to. There's fantastic publications and things out there. You get a significant discount as a member. The nutrition. Oh, I'm trying to think of the actual name of the one of the care plan manuals. It's something I reference all the time. I like to use it with my students, and I like to look at it. And there's always changing. There's things always evolving and changing, and so it's nice to be aware of those things, especially in education. Working as an instructor with students who are really just starting out, and they're really excited, and they're absorbing everything they come in contact with, and so you don't want them to bring up stuff in class and you're like, oh, I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have, those publications and that material. So, you're aware of what's happening around in the world too.
Yeah, you're staying up to date with everything that's constantly changing in the field of nutrition.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It must be so, I love your perspective as a lecturer and as a teacher and being up there and holding that NDTR credential. What is that like being able to educate the next nutrition professionals or people interested in nutrition as an NDTR? Because typically it's a dietitian that does that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I enjoy it. It's very exciting because it gives students another perspective,
Yes.
and it gives students more options. When I was going through my undergrad career, it was dietitian and that's it. And typically you clinical, like clinical nutrition, and you're a dietitian, you're going to go into clinical, and that was really the path. But I think what we're seeing now, at least in the program that I'm working in, we're trying to expose the students to other possibilities. Be like, yes, you can be a dietitian. Yes, you can work in clinical. But guess what? As a dietitian, you can do A, B, C, D, all the way to Z. And guess what? Maybe the dietitian is an option for you, and DTR is an option. Or maybe you can use your knowledge and move into another career. It's trying to expose them to other possibilities. I think it can be really limiting when you think that if I pick one career path, it's just this one little narrow road. But really, nutrition is so big, so broad, and there's so many areas you can excel in. It's good for them to know, because then they can go and really explore those things. And so the number one question I get is why aren't you an RD? And my personal story is while I was working to try to get an internship, just doing different jobs, trying to really build up my resume, eventually got to a point where it just wasn't financially feasible for me to do that. And of course that was very discouraging, and I felt sad about all that. But again, having a good network and having a mentor really pushed me in a different direction. The NDTR allowed me to stay in nutrition and really excel and move on. When I originally thought, am I going to have to leave nutrition? Because at that point, I had my bachelor's degree in dietetics, but I had no other certifications. And if I wanted to work in nutrition, I worked for a little while as a personal trainer, but it's not the same. It's definitely not the same. And so the NDTR opened so many more doors and really allowed me to stay in a field that I was really excited about in the first place, and really not feel like I needed to just do something else, which I think some people feel discouraged and they might do. So definitely NDTR is a great option.
That is so encouraging to hear, because I feel like a lot of people can resonate with that story because it's realistic, it's life. And to have that credential and still be such an important, pivotal person in the academy as an NDTR, showing your worth and being an important component is just encouraging. You don't have to leave the field. You can still practice and be a well-working professional, which is just, it's just great to see the use of the credential at its max. I feel like you're really showcasing it really well.
Thank you. I'm glad. Yeah. Thank you.
So as we celebrate NDTR Day, How would you like NDTRs to be acknowledged or recognized?
My NDTRs is something I think for NDTRs. I think you all need to realize that you are a nutrition professional and you went through a lot of training. If you did an associate's program, I think it's like 400 or 500 some
Yeah,
hours of, I mean, that's
450.
that's significant. And the education you get is rigorous. This isn't a weekend seminar. So you're doing good work and you have good knowledge. So you're out there doing good things. And so you should really just say, I'm a professional and I do good work. So I think starting there and how I'd like to see NDTRs being recognized is other people saying that too. It's you're not just a tech, you're not a tech. I think there's some maybe negative connotations with that. You are a nutrition and dietetics professional and you do good work. You know what needs to be done to keep the public safe and healthy. You're not out there doing dubious practices and giving bad advice. I hope not. And so I just want the academy, everyone just to acknowledge that we're nutrition professionals and we do good work. I mean, really, that's what it is. Because I think sometimes maybe NDTRs don't feel that way, and so it's nice to hear that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. When I was an NDTR, I just felt like no one knew what I did and didn't value the work that it takes to hold that credential and then to maintain that credential too. You don't just get it and
Oh
done. Like
yes, yes, that's a whole other thing.
right.
All the different classes and courses and things. Yeah, it's not one and done. You've got fees and courses and all types of things. So yeah, you're working.
Yeah, and you want to continue to build that career. And in line with that, you recently received a award for NDTR of the year for the Academy of Arizona, that branch there. How did that come about? That's exciting.
Well, again, I have to give more props to my colleagues. They've been very supportive. When I first came on as a full-time lecturer and as a DTR, I was the first NDTR to work in that capacity. And so the dietitians that I worked with, the other lecturers and associate professors and stuff, were super supportive, and they were very excited that I was working with them and as an NDTR. So I would imagine one of them also nominated me for that. But I just know from my experience, like that first 6 months, I think all they want to talk about was like, oh, tell me about NDTR. That's so amazing. Tell me about what you did, how you got here. It's a really, I guess it's a story that they wanted to know, and I felt really really supported, and so I would imagine that's kind of how it came about, and they just like that I was in that position and doing what I'm doing as an NDTR.
That is so encouraging because that shows the unity of a dietitian and an NDTR. It's not verse, it's dietitians like coming and valuing NDTRs and what dietitians can do to promote this credential as well, which is so
Yes.
exciting. And so you didn't have to read a newsletter to find out about that, about that
No,
award.
no, I had to read an email saying that I was nominated.
So still an
So
email, but
yeah, I guess I need to do a little better job with my, like, staying plugged in with the news and happenings, I guess, with the
well, you
groups.
found out about the position that you had from a newsletter. So it sounds
Yes,
like you're
that's
doing
true.
pretty good with that. So
Okay, all right,
yeah.
thank you.
You mentioned that you want NDTRs to acknowledge their own value and then other people to acknowledge their values, which you had the example with dietitians acknowledging you as an NDTR. But
Yes.
what is something, so what, when you were talking to the dietitians about your story and how you got to where you are, what was one thing that they didn't seem to grasp about what an NDTR is and what NDTR does?
Same thing with that I would receive from students. Why aren't you an RD? That I would say that was probably the biggest thing. And to be fair, I think the people moving from a DPD program and then doing the NDTR, I think that's still fairly young, I guess, within the nutrition field. Well, I guess like 13, 14 years or something like that now. So I think maybe a lot of them just aren't aware that that's an option. That's something. So that's a big one. And then also at working as an NDTR, I think we NDTRs have this kind of thought also. It's, oh, did you work in like a sniff, and did you like, it was really focused on clinical, but NDTRs can work all over and anywhere. So talking about my experience in sports nutrition, and then some experience with education was something that I think was eye-opening and exciting for them. That was another one, because I think even NDTRs, we get really it's really easy to focus on, I'm just going to work in this little clinical pathway and stay there, not realizing that there's all kinds of things you can do out there.
Yes. And I can definitely agree with you with that, because even with the podcast, when I interview other NDTRs doing these jobs I just never even thought that we could do, I'm always blown away, because I'm like, I could have done that. Like I didn't know that that was an option. So I love that you said that, because I see it all the time. And so I have to ask,
Yeah.
because people are going to be curious, what did you do in sports nutrition? Because that is a hot career that a lot of people want to dive into, and you did it as an NDTR. So what was that like for you?
So it might just be part of my personality. There weren't positions, so I'm like, I'm going to make a position.
Yes.
So I've always been interested and active in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, boxing, and it's called Kuk Sulwan. It's a type of traditional martial art. So throughout high school and in college, and so I was working out at a gym, and I decided that I can offer something. Maybe this is something I can do as like a small business, and so I approached the owner, the head trainer, and I said, hey, you have a competition coming up. Why don't I help walk you through a proper weight cutting program to get you ready? And hit big imposing guy, and he's like, okay, I'll give you 1 month, and essentially it was like, if it works, then you can stay and everything's great. If not, then
Yeah.
go.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay. I'm like, all right, tell me what you normally do. And he's like, well, normally I just don't eat for a very long time. And so the biggest thing that I came across was with weight cutting is different sports have different requirements from when you weigh in and when you compete. And a lot of people have this thought of like professional boxing or professional mixed martial arts. You weigh in, and then you have like a good 24 hours or so before you actually compete. What a lot of sports aren't that way. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in particular, you might go up and weigh and then go to the mat, or you might have a minute. So these severely dehydrating yourself and depleting yourself methods aren't practical, and they don't work. A lot of athletes are used to doing that, and so they compete that way, and it just feels normal. But it's not normal. And so with this owner, we worked on working on low residue diet and trying to really eliminate bowel weight, and working on different ways to stay completely hydrated but also get his weight down. And so that was kind of a challenge, because I didn't want him to eat any like, he loved apples, and I didn't want him to eat the peels, so I would give him a bunch of applesauce and things. And then it was the night before, he was chomping down on an apple. I'm like, okay, I think this will be okay. This is the night before. And I was super stressed, because I'm like, this is my like chance to really make it happen. And luckily he made weight, and he said that he felt the best that he's ever felt competing and being at weight. And so from there, he really promoted me to other people in the gym. And then from there, I just kind of branched out, and I worked with other people. So that's really how that all got started.
That is everything you say. That is such an encouraging story, because there wasn't a job, you made the job. And then what you're doing, that is some intense nutrition science that you are implementing, and interventions. And then you made your own, you made it work.
Yeah, and I have to say that the academy was helpful with that as well, because the sports nutrition, it was a collegiate and sports nutrition dietitians group. I joined that group as a member, and everything I could like find they had, and I could send an email to a sports dietitian at like some university and be like, oh yeah, this is what we do with our wrestlers and stuff. I was like, oh, that's great. I'll give you so the information's out there. You just got to go and get it.
That is incredible too, because the biggest thing is like you spend all this time to become a dietitian, but what if that's just what you want to do? You just want to work with athletes. You don't need to be a dietitian. So you don't have to spend that time and money to do that, but you can still practice and really make impacts in people's lives. And what I'm most excited about that and what you did with those athletes is traditionally what you hear is you hear people who just get a certification for nutrition going in and doing those things, which sometimes they do it right. I don't even know. But you, with the resources, the academy and your nutrition and your knowledge, like you were really giving the best quality care to your clients.
And that's what we want. We want to help people, and we want to do it safely and evidence-based. And then the athletes are really happy too, because they get to experience something that's more enjoyable, and they're getting the outcome that they want. A sweat rate test was something that I would do also, where we would have them weigh them and then have them exercise, and we'd figure out how much water weight they lost during that time. Okay, and then during a typical workout, this is how you're going to hydrate yourself during that time. Just being real methodical with it, and going back to combat athletes, they'll do anything. So having a strict schedule, like, okay, you're going to do this, this, and this. They were easy. Be harder with some other athletes, but they were great. But it's really cool, and it's really cool to actually see it like work and happen. I mean, you can read and you can hear about things, but when you actually put it into practice and actually see some really good things come out, that's like super exciting.
That's incredible. Okay. What is the thing I feel like we might have just covered it, but as an NDTR, what is the thing you enjoy most about being an NDTR?
There's a lot of things, but what I enjoyed most, I think, is catching people off guard, because they don't know exactly what NDTR is, or they're not familiar with their credential, or maybe they are a dietitian or other nutrition dietetics professional, and they have maybe just a very narrow idea of an NDTR. I think kind of surprising them with, hey, I'm an NDTR, and this is what I do, and this is what I've done, and this is where I can go. I think I like that kind of surprise, I guess.
That out of box.
That always gives me, makes smile a little bit, like, oh wow, really? Wow. Yeah, I like that.
That's a nice reaction. Like, I had no idea. You're like, yeah, I know my stuff.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So this year, it's National Nutrition Month. For National Nutrition Month, the theme is Fuel the Future. And so as an NDTR, how do you help people fuel their future while protecting the planet?
Well, I guess I would say I think it's a slogan, the shop local.
Mm-hmm.
I can't stress that enough. I think that it's really easy to get in our own little bubble, that we're in our community, but we're not really branching out into the community to see what is actually available. It's real easy to buy mass-produced stuff and having it shipped across the country. But we have really good food and produce and products that are by people in your community that are there. So I think, taking the time to actually explore your own community and seeing what they have to offer, support them. And I mean, carbon emissions, I think, would drop drastically. You're not having big trucks and things going cross country to get you have stuff, I think, right in your back door, your backyard, and you're maybe not exploring it. So I think as an NDTR, as an individual, but then also, encouraging others to really explore. I feel really fortunate in Tucson, Arizona. We have farmers markets. We have just amazing stuff, and you can go and get things that they're using at the restaurants and making. I mean, there's really nothing special that they have. They're not getting something flown from some other country, whatever. The food, the great products and everything is here. You just have to go out and get it. And it's great because you're supporting your community and the people that are trying to do things right, and they're right there. So I mean, that I would say would be the biggest thing is, check out what's around you and keep it local.
Yeah, that's great. I know there's a thought that people don't ever explore their own town, but they always want to travel to see something new, but just go outside and go to those farmers markets. That's great. That's great advice from an NDTR. Thank you for that. And so to wrap up, is there anything that you want to share or anything you can provide to NDTRs?
I think I touched on it a little bit, but just to reiterate, is that as an NDTR, you're doing good work, you matter, know your worth, and just know that in the nutrition and dietetics world, things for you are not perfect, but there definitely seems to be strides being made in a positive direction. And so, stick it out. And if you're not doing, the exact job that you want, well, go create that job. I mean, there's nothing holding you back. I mean, you are a nutrition professional. You can do some great things, go out there and make it happen.
I love that. And then that's the out of box thinking that NDTRs need to have. And that's the NDTRs that thrive, think outside the box. And for NDTRs who aren't a part of the academy or NDTRs who are a part of the academy, what would you say to them so that they can get and give appropriately and really get the best out of what the academy has as a member?
Well, I think if you're already a member of the academy, I think try to get a little more active. Maybe you could be a mentor to somebody. If you're not a part of the academy, take advantage of what they have to offer. It's not just that magazine, the journal that you get. It's not just the newsletters. There's so much more that they have to offer. They even offer scholarships. So I mean, if you're looking to go back to school or do different things, they offer money. I mean, there's so many things. Take advantage. And if you are in the academy, help those other NDTRs. Give them a reason, to join the academy. Show them, what's great. The networking, the networking and the mentorship is the biggest thing that I've ever gained from the academy membership, bar none. And if you can do that for somebody, you can really make a difference. I think that just go out there and just do it.
Just do it. I love it. Thank you so much, Chris, for your time. I really appreciate you sharing your story and what you're doing. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you're doing specifically for NDTRs in the academy. I'm very happy that you have that role and that you are being a voice for NDTRs.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think you're more of a voice for NDTRs than I am. So I definitely appreciate all the work that you do. I've gone through and I've listened to a bunch of different podcasts. So you're fantastic, and I love the different people that you brought on. So
thank you.
So kudos to you too. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you're adding to the library. And honestly, it takes all of the NDTRs or dietitians who were formerly NDTRs or even dietitians to uphold and talk about this credential. And like you said, have the conversation and start the conversation. So happy NDTR Day and National Nutrition Month. And then Chris, if anyone wants to reach out with questions, comments, or concerns to you, do you have a way that they can contact you?
Yes. My personal email, cmills, CMILLS, period, nutrition@gmail.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for that. And everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, let's leave them down below and join that academy. Happy National Nutrition Month.